Hello Battle Cats players, my name is Chance and welcome to my guide. Today we're going to be going over a fairly interesting Uber, one whose usefulness is hit or miss, so to speak. But certainly one who has one of the cooler designs in the game for sure. Today we're going to be taking a look at Marauder Cat. This uber rare cat can be unlocked by playing the rare cat capsules during the Dynamites event as well as the Metal Busters event. And as always, it is my hope that throughout the course of this video, explaining really all you need to know about Marauder Cat, you can make a more informed decision on not only how to best use him, but how far to invest into him to get the maximum bang for your buck. Now then, let's take a look at his evolutions. Starting out with Marauder Cat himself, whose description reads, its cursed sword reduces the offensive power, but might deliver critical hits, known as the Metal Killer. Then at level 10 it evolves into Berserker Cat. The cursed sword has taken over and turned the cat into the Cursed Knight, known as Dark Metal Knight area attack. Then at level 30, as well as the introduction of some Catfruits and XP, it becomes Paladin Cat. This cat's description reads, this cat's righteous heart finally conquered the cursed sword, turning it into an holy axe. Might critical attack, area attack. While I do think the descriptions are actually pretty cool for Marauder Cat, I am kind of annoyed by the fact that it doesn't really get into too much detail as to what this cat actually does, other than allude to the fact that it might be good against metal, which is not entirely true. Before we get into that, however, let's take a quick look at his performance and talk about some pros and cons. Firstly, under pros, you have a decent attack rate, low cost, and fast recharge. Under cons, low attack power, low range in the normal and evolved form, slow movement speed, and single target in normal form. As far as other considerations go, you have a 20% chance to perform a critical hit in normal form, 40% in evolved, and 50% in true, as well as immune to knockback in true form as well. Now then, to those astute of you enough to notice, there's something very wrong with this cat. Namely, that he doesn't actually do that good against metals. Or at the very least, he's not really the best unit against metals for the most part. His normal and evolved form really just don't move the needle enough. And the fact that they are low range kind of puts Marauder Cat in the danger zone for a lot of the tougher metal enemies. Now then, let's talk about how to use him and just watch some gameplay as well. So, as far as usability goes, there's one thing that really holds Marauder Cat back, and that is his, quite frankly, miserable stats. And it is also particularly egregious that his normal form is single target, and the way his attack animation works is it's pretty likely he's gonna miss an attack, which is so dang unfortunate. I would perhaps make the argument that this cat is almost entirely useless until he hits true form. And even then, he's kind of meh. Reason being, first and foremost, he's really only usable against metal enemies. His stats don't really make him viable for anything else. In addition to that, his immunity to knockback can actually really hurt him for some of the more difficult metal enemies, as being knocked back and this being able to reposition yourself to a more advantageous and protected spot isn't really a choice for Marauder Cat. The flip side of this being that now his attacks can't be interrupted, which is fine, but you also have to bear in mind that this guaranteed hit, so to speak, also comes at the cost of his entire survivability. So it really comes down to how you're running the math, in my opinion. Personally, I don't really think it plays out towards the player's favor. In any case, really the best way to use this cat is to, I guess, in theory, just spam as many meat shields as possible. Then once you establish a firm line, then send out Marauder Cat and hope that that line stands. Because if it doesn't, you're not going to get a chance to reestablish it without Marauder Cat being killed. As far as cost is concerned, Chapter 1 you're looking at 1500, Chapter 2 2250, and Chapter 3 3000. So he's fairly inexpensive for an Uber, but this is still a lot of money to sink into one unit that might die a lot quicker than you're expecting. So just pretty please make sure you're meat shielding properly whenever you're using Marauder Cat. As far as cat combos go, Marauder Cat only has access to one, and that's Curse Strength. It's a cat cannon recharge up of the medium variety involving Grudge Cat and Marauder Cat, and allows this cannon to charge 10 seconds faster. While you might be able to make an argument for this on zombie stages, in general I'm not a huge fan of very many of the cat cannon cat combos, and the implementation of Marauder Cat in this one make it particularly subject to the stages. Now then, as far as Catfruit, you're going to need to true form this unit. You're going to need 4 green, which are obtainable every Monday, 5 purple, which are obtainable every Tuesday, 4 blue, which can be obtained every Thursday, 4 yellow, which can be obtained every Friday, and 3 epic, which can technically be obtained by any of the stages, with the exception of Growing Strange and Growing Evil. You can also get epic Catfruit through the dual Cyclone fight stages, and after completing an Ancient Curse, you'll gain access to the Growing Epic stages for a few hours every weekend. You'll also need the standard Uber amount of 1 million XP. Now I'm just going to flash you some of the relevant stat screens for Marauder Cat while reading out some trivia. Berserker Cat is modeled after the gaming magazine Famitsu's mascot, Neki the Fox, as described in Neko Ecology Report Large Edition. Though at first it would appear to lack any visual similarities, Neki is depicted in a different costume every time he appears on the magazine's cover art, with many of the costumes including dark clothing, a sword, and/or medieval armor. Berserker Cat also looks like Guts from the Japanese manga Berserk in Berserk mode. Also RIP to Berserk, had so much potential, but pain. Berserker Cat's nickname, Dark Metal Cat, could be a reference to Dark Meta Knight, a reoccurring boss in the Kirby series. Paladin Cat's weapon looks like a combination of several weapons used by the Kingdom Hearts organization, 13. It has Axel's chakrams, Vexen's shields, Lechias's axe, Larkias's knives, Zalin's lances. Paladin Cat himself also shares some similarities with the Twilight Thorn Nobody. Paladin Cat also has the highest sub 100 critical chance in the game at 50%. Paladin Cat's true form evolution description claims that he is granted resistance to an enemy's knockback when in reality he gains full immunity. This may be because knockback was originally named resist knockback. There is a typo in Paladin Cat's talent screen. It says freeze instead of freeze. Essentially there's one extra E. Very interesting stuff. Now let's move on to talents. First up, we have Freeze Metal, which adds a 30% chance to freeze for 0.5 seconds, and this improves by 0.17 seconds per level up to 2 seconds total. This is for a total NP cost of 235 NP. Up next, we have Zombie Killer for a cost of 100 NP, Immune to Slow for a cost of 100 NP, and Defense and Attack buffs, which increase their respective traits by 2% per level up to 20% for a total cost of 175 NP each. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of bait going on with these talents. I know a lot of you are going to be like, oh, Freeze Metal, Pog, that's awesome. And man, I wish that was the case. Unfortunately, at a 30% chance, it just doesn't really happen enough. A lot of this stems from the lack of survivability of Marauder Cat, but also a lot of it just stems down to how math works. And unfortunately, a 2-second freeze really isn't that big of a deal when you're up against some of these tougher metal stages. Zombie Killer is another kind of bait. It doesn't make any sense. The stats just aren't really there for this to be applicable on anything other than a metal stage. Immune to Slow is essentially worthless given his survivability, and Defense buff isn't really much better. The only thing that kind of makes sense here is Attack buff, and that's only because of the way that the crit could potentially make a difference, allowing this unit to knock back some of the more difficult to deal with metal enemies. At least so long as he's already been upgraded to level 50, so take that with a grain of salt as well. I would really love to see Paladin Cat maybe get some Ultra Talents to make him a little bit more useful. Maybe something that would inflict an additional status effect like Slow for a fair bit longer could make sense. Or even increasing his crit chance could also work for the right cost. But currently, his talents aren't really worth investing in, especially given how rare NP is and valuable it is as a resource. Odds are you're going to have a great deal of cats who need it a lot more, and I don't know, I really feel like these talents are lackluster. Now that you know what I think, let's hear what all of you had to say about him. Bee-Eater says, Metal Killer, shockingly underrated. I don't know if it's that he's underrated exactly. I think he has his use cases on metal stages, but bringing him into anything else doesn't really make much sense to me personally. Maybe I'm wrong. If you guys disagree, let me know down beneath. Cross/01 says chivalrous, but with a chip on his shoulder. I actually really do like a lot of the animation sprites for Marauder Cat. I think they're probably some of the better looking sprites in the game. And I kind of agree with his take on him. Pretty cool. And at I'm freaking stupid says do not have him. That's fair. I'm not too sure if you actually need Marauder Cat on any stages, or even if the stages are made much easier with him on your team. There aren't a ton of good critters in the game, but the few that there are really good, so I wonder if it's enough to compensate. I'd have to run the math. Might be worth getting into in the stage series, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And if you would like to be featured in this part of the video, be sure to comment on the relevant community posts over on the community tab. And that really is all there is to say about Marauder Cat. If there's anything I missed or could have explained better, feel free to let me know in the comments section. But overall, this cat is good at one thing and one thing only. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with that, the thing he's good at, there are a few other cats who are very good at. So, I don't know, he just strikes me as kind of underwhelming for the quote-unquote metal killer, you know? But maybe, once again, that's me. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for Cat God's Blessing on your next gacha roll, and as always guys, I'll be talking to you soon.